Weston.
Welcome everybody to MS Office Hours. It is Thursday, October 26th. Let me please introduce our hosts.
Hello everyone, my name is Victoria Dean.
Hey there, Stephanie Stevens.
Hey, I'm Garrett Chandler. I am super excited to have us joined by the Mr. Mark Dunkel, one of our superstar security specialists. So Mark, he is talking to us about Zero Trust. We're coming to the end of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, right? So October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We're almost there, almost Halloween. So Mark, I'll kick it over to you for a brief intro and you can kick us off.
Excellent. And thanks for that introduction. I like the production here, but I do feel bamboozled. I'm going to come off on my video in a second because I was told earlier a couple days ago that we're getting close to Halloween and we should dress up in a costume, and I didn't have a costume within a couple days. I see so many people that I've worked with over the years. I'm really excited to be on this call and seeing those faces. I'm really excited to see certain people at certain universities down south for me when I come here. But I'm going to be talking about Zero Trust today, and I only have really one resource for you today. I want to walk you through it. We have all sorts of people that are on this call today. We have people that I know are pretty good at Zero Trust today, and they have adopted a methodology and that sort of thing. And then we have people that are just trying to manage what they can and their challenge. If you look at our K through 12 environments around the United States, these resources are real superheroes if you ever get a chance to work with them, and they wear so many different hats. And so when you talk about things like Zero Trust and along with security and how to secure your environment, these people do amazing things, and I have so much to do that I'm going to be talking to that group too, and how they can get started and how they can make incremental improvements as it relates to Zero Trust. But as I mentioned, I was told to wear a costume, and I'm talking about Zero Trust today. So I'm going to come off the mic, and I'm going to dress as one of my heroes. And here we go. So I'm Jim, and so I have some folks that are on this call that I've worked with through so many different years. One of the things about this job, before I begin to talk about Zero Trust, one of the things about this job is it's really destroyed all my rivalries. So Michigan has a certain rival down south that I'm sure you guys are all aware of, but my rivalry has just been absolutely destroyed because of what wonderful hosts and what wonderful people they are at that particular university. Same thing I can say about Notre Dame and so many other campuses where they take me to the football field, they take me to their basketball courts that are legendary. It's really ruined my rivalry. So while I will always say go blue, just so you know that I have so much respect for all these schools that are currently on this and that I talk to. And Marge, as far as I'm concerned, you're a legend, and I've loved working with you throughout the years. So I'm going to be talking about Zero Trust security. So the one resource that I want to share with everyone, I think it's really important. And when I think about it, I'm going to put it in the chat pane. And when I think about Zero Trust and this particular resource, there's so much really good information on here. And if you think about, we're going into the holiday season pretty soon, and we are going to have a little bit of downtime. It's going to get a little slower. The students are going to go away for a while, and we're going to have to be able to kind of reassess our environment and where we're doing good with Zero Trust and where maybe we need some improvement. And of course, ever since COVID happened, maybe a little bit before that, but COVID certainly accelerated that. The way we ran traditional networks and the way we access traditional applications has all changed with software as a service, and now we're in multi-cloud and that sort of thing. So we've kind of adopted, every vendor's kind of come out with this Zero Trust model, and it's really just about verifying explicitly, making sure that we're providing least privilege access to our resources and always assuming that we're breached. We probably are at any given time throughout our environment. And so it's really just that mindset. It's not a product. It's really just a mindset about how we approach the way we look at threats to our identities, into our endpoints, to our applications, our network, our infrastructure, and even the access to our data. So ultimately, that's what a lot of the bad actors are trying to get. So this one particular resource is really good, and I just wanted to orientate everyone as we go through this. So, so as we go to this particular resource, you can see right up at the top, you can get a white paper. You can download that for easier reading as it relates to zero trust. And I'll talk about some of the reasons why we're doing zero trust. It's really the evolution of how we run our environments and access to our applications and where those applications run, and the fact that people are remote now and they're in a Starbucks or they're at home, or students are in their dorm, and they may be on or off campus. Same with our faculty and staff, and access to resources and how do we really secure all those things. In terms of the zero trust principles, we talked about verifying explicitly all the time in session, not just checking them at the door, but making sure that we're checking them at the door and subsequently checking them throughout the session, what they're doing, what behavior they're exuding. Are they doing something that they typically haven't done before over a course of time? Making sure that all of our accounts have least privilege access, that we're just not blindly giving admins 24/7 access to our resources or our users, that we have proper onboarding and offboarding procedures, and always looking at that. And of course, assuming breach, and making sure that we're cleaning up our environment or we're monitoring our environment, and we're cleaning up any threats that are happening with our environment, and we're doing those investigations. So with this resource, there's a lot of resource in terms of certain categories that you can kind of focus on. So if you're focused on improving your security posture management or regulatory compliance, we have a lot of resources for you to take a look at there. A lot of times what happens is someone in an executive leadership says this is an area that we have to focus. There's category areas here that you could go ahead and learn a little bit more. One of the things that I don't think a lot of our customers know about is that we have assessments for your zero trust journey. If you go ahead and just click on this assessment, it's going to take you to a page to where you can quickly go to and see, take an identities quiz or an endpoints quiz, or how you're doing against applications or your network. And you can click on any one of these, and it's just going to start assessing you. And you can fill out a quick survey, and it's going to give you an output with some recommendations. And so that could be, very helpful, particularly for even, I would say, some of the folks that I see on the call today that I know that are doing this pretty well. Whether it's Ohio State, or whether it's the folks in Nebraska or Tennessee or the University of Texas, they have a lot of campuses there. Each one of those campuses would probably go through these assessments and get different results. And what's good about this is you'll be able to understand your gaps, or maybe you understand that we're doing pretty well in particular areas, but maybe in other areas that we might want to give that a little bit more attention as we go forward. I'll give you an example of what I see a lot in terms of an area that might need more attention from a lot of our schools is the area around servers. While we are doing a lot with client endpoints, and whether it's iOS or Android or Windows device or those sorts of things, a lot of times when it comes to our servers, there's more things that we can do to harden our server environment. There's things that we could do to be more to be checking for vulnerabilities. There's things that we could be doing more to harden our environment to make sure only approved applications that are whitelisted could actually run on those server environments that are running our student information system or our learning management systems, those critical systems that are within our environment. We can lock down and provide just-in-time access to certain ports. So if you're doing RDP over 3389 and you want to provide just-in-time access to those particular ports, you can go ahead and do that and just not provide standing access to those ports, and make sure those lock down and they're kind of time-bound in terms of how long you have access to certain VMs throughout your environment. So there's a whole host of things that we can do, maybe on the server and the infrastructure side as well. But these assessments are really good to kind of walk through. It's going to ask you question by question, give you an output. But I want to make you aware of that because I think these are very valuable in terms of just kind of assessing yourself and where you're at, and maybe some things that you could be working on as you enter the new year. Moving down a little bit farther, we have zero trust defined. This kind of talks about it's kind of a visualization. So a little techie here, but this is pretty good to kind of understand about looking at identity, looking at endpoints, looking at threat protections, the policies that you have for accessing applications, data, your network, the things that are capturing your network traffic, and what are we doing around our network traffic to make sure that we're cleaning up anything that's malicious within our network, restricting our ports, those sorts of things. But as you look at this holistically, it begins to kind of paint a better picture in your mind about areas that you're doing well in zero trust today, and areas maybe you need improvement, and it allows you to kind of visualize and focus into those particular areas. So this is a good little graphic to have, and remember, always least privilege access, and remember just-in-time types of controls as we access these resources. We have other areas that you can explore. So we have an ebook. So we have a zero trust defense areas, and you can get the ebook, you can download the ebook, and it's going to go across in more depth these particular area categories around zero trust that we have here. So we have areas around identity and endpoints and applications and data and infrastructure and network. And when we think about from a Microsoft lens, it's important to note that when we're talking about zero trust, it's not just, as much as we would love it to be, it's not just a Microsoft holistic. You have all Microsoft tools, and that's wonderful from a security and compliance standpoint. Even though we have very, very good tools, we understand that you guys have all sorts of different tools. And really, in the spirit of zero trust, it's really about us meeting you where you're at and kind of working with you. So whenever I work with any of the customers many of the customers that are on this call today, it's really trying to assess where you're at today, where you could improve from a zero trust, whether it's Microsoft or not, trying to close up those gaps and try to make you more secure than you were yesterday to next month, to the months ahead into the following year. Incremental improvement as we go through this, because again, we're trying to improve security around identity, around endpoint, around applications, data, infrastructure, network. We're in infrastructure. We're trying to combine all these signals and make sure that we're being as comprehensive as we can. And it's a crawl, walk, run. We're learning all the time. We're improving all the time. New technology and AI is coming out all the time. And it's always a process of improvement. And it's okay. No one's perfect. Nobody's perfect, not on this call, not at Microsoft. And we're always trying to improve. And the idea is just to get behind it, adopt a methodology like this, and then make that incremental improvement over time. There's a lot of really good information in these resources. So around identities or endpoints or apps, there's a lot of information about how Microsoft can help in terms of these particular areas and categories of zero trust. And then we have some really good, concise, articulate videos. And I think each one of these are only about 10 minutes long. They do a very good job, a very concise job of just kind of walking through each one of these categories, and gives you some things to think about as you begin to think about zero trust and how you want to explore that within your organization. So if I go to any one of these, we have the zero trust, we have the identity controls, the endpoint applications, and the network and infrastructure. We have the data, and they're very concise. And they'll dig into some of the Microsoft tools that are there that can help you out with that. And then a lot of these tools are going to be will address the things that are Microsoft 365 in terms of Defender and Purview. It'll also address things on your network and infrastructure that can be running in Azure. And so it'll go both on kind of the end-to-end, whether we're talking about, infrastructure as a service or platform as a service or software as a service, or your on-premise infrastructure or your multi-cloud. So Microsoft, as I know a lot of you are aware, with Defender for Cloud, is really about multi-cloud security posture management. It's not just about Microsoft tools. If you have something in AWS that's running and you need to scan files that are in AWS to apply purview policies against that, great, we can do that. If you're using Google and you want to apply purview policies, or Salesforce, so on, et cetera, there's hundreds and hundreds of SaaS applications. You can go ahead and scan those and apply those policies, right? And so when we think about Microsoft Defender for Cloud, oftentimes when customers first begin, they're thinking about shoring up their server environment. But we can focus on IoT, we can focus on your storage, whether it's in Microsoft Azure, AWS, GCP, or on premises. We can think about your databases, and we can look at your database from a security and compliance standpoint, not just at the OS level, but at the database level, at the table level, right down to the field level, as we begin to look at that. So now we're talking about we can apply zero trust policies on unsecured or unstructured and structured data across multi-cloud. And it's not just about M365, right? And so it's a very, very broad. When we look at what you're all doing with your productivity platforms and software as a service, whether it's Microsoft or Google, et cetera, or whether you're looking at your multi-cloud, it's not uncommon. Obviously, this higher ed, we have a lot of R1 institutions. We have a lot of different clouds that are out there. But how do we have that pane of glass? How do we make sure that we're compliant across those panes of glass? How do we make sure that we have that single view into all these different clouds and make sure that our policies are consistent across each one of these? These are the things that cloud security posture management can give you inside of Microsoft Defender for Cloud and help you kind of better achieve zero trust as we go through the environment. There are some other articles here that I think are valuable. There's links off to the zero trust security blogs, CISO blogs, so on, et cetera, all good information. And then you can learn more about our zero trust solutions by clicking this. This is going to take you to a whole different area to where be more specific in a particular zero trust areas. I'll go ahead and click on that real quick. But I think this one resource is extremely valuable with a lot of really good information. And you look up here on top, and we're talking about generative AI. I do want to talk about Microsoft Security Copilot. Since I have you on, I'll go back up to that. But I wanted to focus your attention on Microsoft Ignite, and thanks for Garrett for bringing that up. It's right around the corner. There's going to be so many really good announcements at Microsoft Ignite this year. So if you're not attending in person, please attend some of the sessions that you have that you can perhaps attend virtually. One area of focus that I would kind of highlight, I heard earlier before the call, we were talking about Microsoft's naming conventions. And I think some of you know this, but some of you might not know this, so it's worth kind of covering. When someone from Microsoft or you're reading an article, I want you to think about what we're doing around security, zero trust, around 5 different categories. When you hear something called Entra, that is really identity and access management and governance. And so one of the areas that Microsoft is investing heavily in, you might think about Azure Active Directory P1 or P2, that's now called Entra P1 or P2. We have identity governance. We have things like permissions management, which makes sure that in your multi-cloud environments, you're not over-permissioning your access to resources, right? And so Mark Dunkel shouldn't have access to 300 different servers when I haven't accessed 90% of them over the last 3 months, right? We want to clean all that up. This is part of the zero trust, and this is part of least privileged access to make sure that we're cleaning up and we're not having standing permissions when I don't necessarily need them at any one given time. I could request those and they can go away for a while, right? And so we have solutions like that. But there's two that I want to call out in particular that they'll talk more about at Ignite. And that is Entra, what we're doing around our security service edge. And so we have Entra internet access, and we have Entra private access. And this allows you to have a secure connection without a VPN to access your internal resources. And the Entra internet access is a new secure web gateway. They're currently both in private preview or public preview, I believe now. And you can go ahead and use those. But I think this is going to be of interest. There's a lot of buzz about these particular technologies, and a lot of my customers have been wanting to talk about those. So this is going to be an area that I think a lot of you are going to be interested in. Okay, so Marge, yes, I'm going to answer your question. So when we think about the 5 categories, when you hear the word Entra, it's going to be identity and access management. And you're going to see a ton of investment and a ton of new products from Microsoft in this particular area. So it's going to expand greatly from what you've known in the past around Microsoft identity and access management solutions. When we say Defender, we're talking about security. So Defender for We know the M365 Defender products, but we have a lot of Defender products that run in Azure around IoT, storage, SQL, servers, so on, et cetera, that can run in that Kubernetes, that can run in that capacity too. So when you hear the word Defender, think security. We have Microsoft Sentinel, which hasn't gotten the Defender name, but that is obviously a security product. It falls under the same category. We have Purview, which is data access and governance. And so this is all around things like information protection, insider risk, and things that can protect not only our unstructured, but our structured data. The ability to discover where sensitive information is and make sure that we have the appropriate policies, whether they're in Microsoft or third-party systems, including AWS, multi-cloud, GCP, or running on hundreds and hundreds of other SaaS applications that are not Microsoft, where we can apply those information protection policies. Purview has that label. It also does e-discovery and things like retention and those sorts of things. We have Priva for privacy, and we got real creative with Intune, and we just call it for management, we call it Intune. And so those are the areas, but each one of those categories and each one of those product lines and each one of those things that we're building there are all engineered to work with one another. I think what we're going to see from a security operations standpoint in the future is you're going to see us move from, we're certainly going to still focus on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. We're still going to focus on incidents of compromise. We're going to start really relying more on behavioral analytics, a heck of a lot more. And I think you're going to see that transition that's already built into the Microsoft products. You're going to see that grow up and evolve. And as we begin to use generative AI, it's only going to get more powerful to be able to do those sorts of things. So I do want to, round it out. Those are the categories, just to make some sense of the naming conventions. And I do want to talk about Security Copilot because it's really exciting. We just had another education customer on board today with that. And so I want you to kind of walk you through. If you're interested in your early adoption program of Security Copilot, there is a cost because this is being recorded. I don't know if I can say that cost right now because it has to be under NDA. But if you ask me directly, I'd be more than happy to tell you that. But we did have an EDU customer on board today, or actually want to move forward with the cost today. The way it would work is you'd get this for, there's a fee, you'd get this for 6 months from the time that you're onboarded to be able to kick the tires with it. It does have integrations outside of the Microsoft ecosystem with things like ServiceNow and Splunk, and there's going to be a lot of others there. But it can integrate with your workflow for let's say ServiceNow. It's really exciting. It's really exciting, and it's a time saver. I think it's going to be great for not only junior analysts and raising their skill sets up. So you think about all of our campuses where we have a lot of young junior security analysts that are coming in that really need and learn quickly. I think it's a wonderful tool for that, but I think it's a wonderful tool for the senior analysts as well, because it helps educate them on the types of threats and the types of groups and the types of hosts that are attacking them so much faster. And it again can integrate with your workflow and process for products like ServiceNow. It's really exciting. I think it's going to be a major time saver. And it's really going to change the way we do security operations in the future, I think. So with that said, if you're interested, you can certainly get nominated. If you get approved, there's a cost, and we can get you into the program. And so with that said, I'm 5 minutes. I don't know if you guys normally do a Q&A or if you want to talk, but I'm happy to answer any questions that we have. And Victoria, you're on mute.
That's great. That's great. 3 years on the job, still haven't figured out the mute button. Yeah, so thank you very much, Mark, for coming and speaking to everyone today. There have been a few questions in the chat that I think you've done a great job with addressing. I think the only pending one Brian put in the chat about an open source resource, radapp.io, wondering how that kind of fits into these tools.
You know what, Brian, I'm not exactly sure right now. I'll give you a better answer. I'll take that offline. I'll give you a better answer. I know the whole group wants to know that. I'm just not prepared to answer that one right now and how it's going to necessarily fit in perfectly right now.
Yeah. And the one thing I would add, I think between that and then I think there was a question around Azure commit. So, I think that RadApp tool is also an Azure tool. So those are more, consumption based, seems to be a little bit more customizable. I would think, and this might not be the best way to think about it, but the co-pilots is being a little bit more prepackaged things that connect to the ways that we think that people would want to use some of these generative AI toolings. Whereas I see people like Michigan, for instance, since Mark is wearing it, create more custom tools with some of the Azure OpenAI capability. Any other, where will data be stored? Ask that because of the statement directed at China.
That's it. Yeah. Well, how about this? Right now, we're kind of under lock and key when it comes to we're recording this. We're putting it on YouTube, right? And so I could answer that question, David. I'd be more than happy to answer that offline. Right now, we're kind of restricted a little bit, and